Small businesses are grappling with the impact of these uncertain times and looking for resources. That's why for the second year in a row, Dell Technologies is assembling an all-star lineup of podcasters to create the first ever virtual conference to share advice and inspiration for small businesses of all kinds. Dell Technologies is here to help safeguard your business with modern devices and Windows 10 Pro to providing relevant content for your business's success. Search Dell Technologies Small Business Podference on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Odyssey.com starting May 10th.
Get your popcorn ready. It's game time, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome
a team that is known as Stoppers.
The Athletic presents Hoge and Jahns.
Every single play, go take it. Bring that juice. Let's go get it. Come on.
Chicago's best Bears coverage.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
From NBC Sports Chicago, it's Adam Hoge.
I do think he has the support of his teammates. Why would you not be rooting for him to succeed?
And from The Athletic, it's Adam Jahns.
I don't mean to psychoanalyze this stuff, but this is what we do in Chicago. This is what we do with our quarterbacks, and this is the biggest story in town.
Here they are, the Adams, Hoge and Jahns.
What's up? Welcome in, Hoge and Jahns with you a week away from the NFL draft, and we continue what has turned out to be our all-star guest lineup as we get closer to the draft. It wasn't really planned, just sort of happened organically, but it's been really fun the last few podcasts to bring in, voices that we really respect, and that continues today with Matt Bowen, Johnsy.
He's the best. He's been coming on Hoge and Jahns since
close to the beginning.
Yeah. Talking to him in the convention center in Indianapolis during the combine. I think we started doing that 3-4 years ago, right? Sitting on those benches in those massive hallways and trying to find a quiet spot. Remember that? You'd have
and there's no quiet spots.
No, there's no quiet spots. I remember doing it one time where they had those giant vacuums coming by.
Oh yeah,
remember that?
Yeah, like the ones you ride on, like they're
Yes.
like lawnmowers that you ride. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's how big. If no one's ever been to the Indiana Convention Center, that's how big those hallways are, where they have riding lawnmower-like vacuums that these dudes ride. And we tried doing a podcast with Matt Bowen, and this dude's going back and forth.
Oh, we'd have to.
The good old days. That's back in the day. Speaking of another argument, that's a back in the day memory.
Yeah, and I think there was that may have even been the time where I think the recorder broke halfway through it. We had to re-record with him, but Matt's the best. That's why he always comes through with us. So welcome in, Hoge and Jahns here with you again, a week away from the draft, and we're continuing our coverage. The nice thing about today's episode, I know we've talked a lot about the quarterbacks. We will have some quarterback talk with Matt Bowen, but he's a defensive guy, so a lot of things on defensive backs too, which corners a need for the Bears. He really knows all the positions, especially in his role with ESPN and doing the NFL matchup show, which if you're not watching, that's one of the best things that ESPN does with their football coverage is their the matchup show with Greg Cassell and Sal Paolantonio and Matt Bowen. They just do a great job breaking down the film every week. So if you're a football geek, and we know we have a lot of them that listen to this podcast, that's definitely something you should check out. You should follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns, and you can read me at NBCSportsChicago.com. It's not out as we're recording. It'll probably be out by the time this episode comes out, Johnsy. You hear me every year talk about draft crushes. I use that term. He's a draft crush. An example is Terry McLaurin from a couple years ago.
Good player. Good crush to have.
I'll never forget prepping for the Big Ten championship game that year, the Northwestern's first game against Ohio State when they played down there. Just watching film and Terry McLaurin's all over. I'm like, this guy's just always open. And so the point of the draft crush, it's like guys that some of them are obvious. Like, I'm not going to lie, Kyle Pitts is on there. Because how can you not like Kyle Pitts, right? There's just nothing. He's just a football guy. He's fun to watch. And these are just guys I love to watch. I don't really necessarily care what their weaknesses are. Just feel it's almost like a gut feeling. Like they're just going to be good at the next level. So I've always talked about these guys. Jahns, I decided this year to make a whole team, a draft crush team.
I
got that coming out on NBCSportsChicago.com today. Of course, Johnsy's coverage is all on The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge and Jahns. You should be subscribed.
I think by the time you listen to this, the final 2021 Athletic Beat Writer mock draft is going to be live. And
Ooh.
I think we did a two rounds this time, and I just made my pick in the second round, and it's going to be a good one.
Wow. Guess what I did, too? If you're watching us on YouTube, and you should be, our YouTube channel, Hoge and Jahns.
Oh, you did it?
Printed it out. The Beast. The Beast is live. It's thick, dude. Look at this thing.
I know. You get tabs there. It's impressive.
I did the extra tabs. FedEx gets it done. Not a show sponsor, but they get a shout out there. Was not easy, but I figured it out, and it's totally worth it. So I got the Beast in front of me. If you didn't listen to last week's episode with Dane Brugler, you should go back and listen to it. But he is the author of The Beast, which to me has become the premier draft guide. Is that fair to say? I mean, It used to be Nolan Naraki's amazing draft guide that he put out every year. There's been a few, but I feel like Dane's has kind of taken over, and just the amount of information you get in here is ridiculous. So if you are an Athletic subscriber, it's included in your subscription. And I'm dead serious. Appreciate all the work you do, Johnsy, but the subscription price, it's worth the Beast alone.
Yeah,
It just is. And on top of that, you get everything else. You get all the football coverage and every other sport you might like, all included. So theathletic.com/Hoge and Jahns. You should be subscribed, and you can get that.
There's still a good deal there.
Yeah, it comes in a PDF on your computer. The Beast does. I did the extra thing to get it printed out. But it is in a format that you can have printed out if you want, which I know at least one of our listeners has done because he tweeted it at us. That was kind of my motivation. Like, all right, if we got listeners doing it, I got to do it too.
Right. I always tell everybody, like, this will be my pitch for The Athletic today. It's always so much more than me or the Fish Man or Dan Pompei. There's just so much there. Like Bruce Feldman talked to 20 people in the league, and he's got this anonymous survey on the best players in the draft. Bob McGinn does his annual draft series, fielding opinions from all over the league, scouts, general managers, and whatnot. So that's all in The Athletic right now. It's just so much there.
All right, enough of the plugs. Matt Bowen's on. He's awesome. The way he breaks down football is very unique, and his knowledge of the game is just so good, and especially when it comes to these draft prospects. So here he is, our friend Matt Bowen. Okay, let's bring in our friend Matt Bowen. Always good to have him on the podcast. He's been in high demand lately. We used to be the only ones that talk to him. Now, now we can't get a hold of him. No, he always picks up the phone for us, and we appreciate it. Matt, good to have you on, especially with the draft just a week away.
I appreciate it, guys. It's one of the best times of the season. Now, you get to talk about the prospects, the traits, the scheme fit in the National Football League. It's one of my favorite times just to get into the tape, too. You have more time in the offseason, study the tape, start to get to know these prospects from a football perspective and how they would fit, in offensive and defensive schemes. And even with guys in the secondary, start saying, okay, can they be core 4 special teams players for you? So there's a lot to look at this time of the year.
Let's start with the quarterbacks because every draft starts with the quarterbacks. And I'm curious, you're a Big Ten guy. Where do you stand on this Justin Fields debate? Like, where does he fit amongst your top quarterbacks in this draft?
He's near the top for me. I think Justin Fields has, high-level physical tools, high-level traits at the quarterback position. Really, when you watch Justin Fields on tape too, guys, he's a pocket thrower. That's what he is. He's a pocket thrower who can be schemed as a dual threat runner on quarterback design rushers. And he also has the ability to escape and extend and create outside of structure. But I focus on him first as a pocket thrower. He's got the deep ball accuracy. He's got the arm talent to attack all levels of the field. He can make touch throws. It's one thing we talked about in the matchup show this past week, his ability to vary ball speeds, throw with both pace and touch or layered throws in the middle of the field. And I think if you put him in a heavily schemed NFL offense, what they all are right now in terms of the passing game, I think that valuation is very similar to Justin Herbert from last year. Because if you look at Justin Herbert's college tape, you had some concerns. And with Justin Fields' college tape, at times you have some concerns. Well, that's based on offensive structure at Ohio State or getting the ball out a little quicker. But again, you're betting on the traits here. You're taking a player or a prospect with high-level traits, putting him in an NFL offense, which has more defined throws, which has more rhythm throws, which teaches him to throw with timing and rhythm. And then you take the traits and say, okay, now when things go south, he can get outside the pocket. He also brings a very physical element to the position. That's one thing I'm big on. Quarterbacks inside the pocket. Can they navigate traffic? Can they work through bodies at their feet? And when they get outside, do they have ball carrier vision? And that's what you get with Justin Fields. I think he's, if I was going to rank him, and I don't really rank players, obviously Trevor Lawrence is going to be number one on everyone's board. But I think you can have a real discussion at number two, whether that's Justin Fields or Zach Wilson.
So let me throw out a hypothetical for you. Yeah. If you're a QB needy team like the Bears and you're a desperate team like the Bears, like how close are you watching the 49ers in this Mac Jones buzz? And say the 49ers do pass on to Justin Fields at 3. Like, do you throw everything on the table to move up to 4 with Atlanta to get a guy like Fields? Like, is he – could you see the Bears doing it? Could you see other teams who need quarterbacks doing it? Like, is he worth something like that?
Well, it's a great question, Adam, because I think the draft does start at number 3. We all assume that it's going to be Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, right? And what San Francisco does is really going to dictate the top 10, top 15, even getting down to 20 where the Bears are. Who do they select? Is it Mac Jones? Is it Trey Lance? Is it Justin Fields? Or is it something different that we're not even thinking about? We don't know yet, right? But I think for the Bears, from the Bears' perspective, can they get up that high? I don't know. But can they get to 8 or 9? Can they get to 8 or 9? Can they get to 10 with Dallas? Who knows? But if someone slides out of that, that mix right there, whether it's Jones or Fields or Lance, then I would be aggressive. If I'm Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, I would be aggressive in that situation. Because right now, and we both know that, Andy Dalton, I believe he can function and produce in that offense. Okay, does he bring a high ceiling to that offense? I don't know. I don't think he does. But if you don't get a quarterback in this year's class, what you're doing is you're just living year to year at the position. When you live year to year at the position, that's what you have to continue to do. Continue to go back to that free agent market, hand out 1-year deals, try to build a bridge to an eventual younger player, but you have to have that younger player within your system. So if the Bears don't get one of the top 5 quarterbacks and aren't aggressive, or if all the top 5 quarterbacks are gone, let's say there's not a lot of movement in the top 10, and we see all the top 5 quarterbacks go, then the Bears have to start thinking, okay, is there a day 2 prospect we can target? And do we have to trade up from our day 2 spot to get one of those second-tier quarterbacks?
Well, that's a good spot for me to ask you about Kellen Mond then, because here's a guy that a couple analysts out there have here and there talked up as even potentially maybe even a first-round talent. That doesn't seem to be the consensus, but all that matters on draft day is what one team thinks about a player. If that one team says he's a first-round talent, we feel like we want to get him at the end of the first round where we got that 5th-year option then on the back end of his rookie deal. It seems to me like something that could be a possibility. What have you liked about or not liked about Kellen Mond in your evaluation?
Well, I do think Kellen Mond is in that, that second-tier group. That's how I would put him. A day 2 pick. Where that happens, we don't know yet. But I do think he has the traits to be developed within a system and eventually work to being a starter. He's got a real quick, twitchy release. He's going to fit in today's NFL because of RPO throws and quick game throws. He's got arm talent. There's no question about his arm talent. He can push the ball down the field. Excellent as a mover outside the pocket and throwing on the run. That shows up consistently on his tape. You look at Texas A&M, what they did this past year. More pro-style concepts, more play action. I think he can develop into a play-action thrower in the National Football League when he can work under center or out of the gun. He does give you dual threat ability. You can scheme him on quarterback design runs. Now, at times, I think he can be too mechanical in the pocket as a thrower. But again, is that something you can teach and coach? Sure, it can. And that's something we have to discuss with all these players, regardless of position. When they get to the NFL, it's another level of coaching. And you can develop in the NFL. You can make strides in both your technique, your play style, your play speed because of how you adjust to pro-level coaching. But Kellen Mond, to answer your question, Adam, sure, he does have traits. He has traits that fit in today's NFL. You just have to decide if you're the Bears, and you're in that second tier range, is it someone like Kellen Mond, or do you go with the more pocket style thrower, as in Davis Mills from Stanford, who's a former 5-star recruit, has really high level arm talent, doesn't have consistent ability to escape and extend like a Kellen Mond does outside of structure. But with the footwork he shows in the pocket, can he be one of those quarterbacks that navigates traffic, consistently resets his throwing window within the pocket, and utilizes the high-end arm talent to attack vertically and on intermediate throws? Because you can scheme him too. Off play action like we saw at Stanford. He can run boot. He can get to the edge of the pocket. So there are traits there too with Davis Mills.
Mond would seem to be a guy that, at least in my opinion, would appeal to Matt Nagy. But I think a lot of times, at least in my opinion, we get confused about what Matt Nagy wants, right? Like, because Andy Dalton and Nick Foles are different than Mitch Trubisky, just in terms of athleticism and all sorts of things they do well in the NFL. And then we know the Chiefs and Matt Nagy, is part of that evaluation, they reached their consensus on Patrick Mahomes. So, like, who do you think, like a Matt Nagy, like who do you think Matt Nagy would like? Like, would he like a Kellen Mond? Or do you think he would prefer like the pocket passer Mac Jones? Do we even know? Like what does Matt Nagy like? Like, what do you think?
Well, I do think, guys, in today's league, you have to have some level of ability to escape and extend. Okay. And I'm not saying you have to have high-end second reaction ability like a Rodgers, Wilson, or Patrick Mahomes to that level, but you have to have some level of ability to move in today's NFL. And based on Matt Nagy's offense, like you said, Adam, coming from Kansas City, and the amount of movement they want at the position, I think they would target a Kellen Mond. I think they would. Now, but at the end of the day, too, you have to be able to master the throws in the pocket, right? With all the movement traits we talk about, second reaction ability, someone like a Zach Wilson, for example, who can make these off-platform throws that you can't really coach. Okay, that's natural talent. I call that those uncoachable traits. But can you consistently throw from the pocket? And I think that ultimately led the Bears to move on from Mitchell Trubisky was the inaccuracy and the limitations he brought as a pocket thrower. And he didn't develop his lower body mechanics, didn't develop his field vision to the point where Matt Nagy trusted him consistently. And I think that's what he's trying to do with Andy Dalton. Get a veteran quarterback who's been in every single NFL situation possible. We understand that. Has enough movement traits to be schemed on boot and sprint concepts and can escape enough to get out of trouble. But ultimately, I do think he wants someone who has that movement ability. And I would too as a coach. I would. I think you need that in today's NFL.
You should be following Matt on Twitter. A lot of great NFL draft coverage and videos to look at, breakdown piece. Of course, you can find him on the NFL Matchup Show too on ESPN. And his Twitter handle is @MattBowen41. I want to shift to defense a little bit. Actually, let's go back a little bit even to some offseason news, and then I'll spin it forward to the draft. But what did you think about the Bears' decision to promote Sean Desai into that defensive coordinator role? And then what are maybe some prospects as we continue to talk offense with these Bears? What are some maybe defensive backs that fit what Sean Desai might want to do defensively?
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting move because you're promoting a coach who's never really commanded the entire room, right? And that can be challenging at first. But I also think that plays into why they brought Mike Pettin in, because then you get a veteran voice who can help in situations that a younger coach hasn't experienced yet. But I like to move. I like to move because I think what it leads to, and again, I'm speculating here, but I think what it leads to is getting back to the scheme in the terms of the ability to create matchups that we saw under Vic Fangio. And I think that's really what the Bears want to be. If you look at Vic in Denver, you look at Brandon Staley, what he did with the Rams last year and what he's going to do with the Chargers this year. Yes, they play split safety coverage. And really, guys, that's where the league's going right now. It is becoming more split safety heavy for a couple of reasons. One, to eliminate explosive plays down the field with two high safeties. The ability to cut crossers and in-breakers, which we see consistently in the NFL right now. You need aggressive safety who have half-field range and can drive top down the ball with short area speed. The Bears have that in the secondary. But also up front, I always go back to the Rams from last year. We did them a bunch of matchup. And I understand that, Aaron Donald. We all understand that. But the Bears have talent on that defensive line too. We know that. So can you scheme them? Can you use more creative fronts? Can you use tilted fronts to get schemed one-on-ones consistently for Khalil Mack? Can you use more twist and stunts inside? Can you bring 5-man fronts and twist and stunt and slant to get those key matchups? I think that's where the Bears are going to go from a coaching perspective on that side of the football because they have the talent. But ultimately, at the end of the day, scheme is one thing. Eddie Jackson, Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, more consistent playmaking. That's what you need in that defense right now because you have the talent right there. And the first thing I would do with Eddie, if I was a coach, I'd sit down with him in the offseason. I'd go back to the 2018 film and say, look, we're going to run this scheme. This is what we're going to do this year. Tell me what you like. Tell me why you made this play. I'd bring up all his impact plays. I'll say, how can we recreate this? How can we get you back to that level where you are a Pro Bowl safety, you are a ball hawk in the secondary, that people are afraid to throw it? Because I thought that in 2018. So what do we do to get back to that? Tell me what systems you like. Tell me where you like to line. Do you like to play more single high than split safety? We can try to work that in. Where do you like to spin down the cover? I would get that all out in front so I'd have a better idea of how to coach.
For like replacing Kyle Fuller is not going to be easy, but like in Ryan Pace's history, at least in terms of building his defenses, he would pair a young cornerback with a veteran. And I think Desmond Trufant this time is the veteran, where Kyle Fuller was that veteran. You still have Jalen Johnson. So like at 20, I find that to be a curious range for a cornerback because it's an obvious need, but the Bears have obvious holes on offense too, maybe receiver, offensive line. Right. But in terms of maybe finding that cornerback that could complement Jalen Johnson and knowing how flexible Sean Desai could be. Like you look at Prince Mukamara, press man, Kyle Fuller would play off a little bit, like having that flexibility. Like who do you like at 20 if the Bears have to take a corner or their board tells them to take a corner? Like who stands out to you? And I have to bring up Greg Newsome here because Adam would kill me if I didn't. So where do you think he fits possibly with the Bears?
I think Greg Newsome would be a really, really easy scheme fit. And I think Adam would agree just because of what he did at Northwestern. He can play press man. He's got length to create on-the-ball production. But also at Northwestern, played single high zones, played split safety zone. I look at Greg Newsome, and I see someone who's a smooth mover, an easy mover, who's a technician. When you watch Newsome on tape, simple things you look for as a defensive back coach. Can you keep your shoulders square? Can you maintain your cushion? Do you have enough transition speed out of your pedal to break downhill in the football, which we saw consistently with Kyle Fuller in his ability to play off coverage? But also in those man-to-man situations, because as much as the Bears will be split safety coverage, everyone in the league wants to eventually run man in certain situations, where it's 3rd and 2 to 6, inside the 10-yard line, which I call the low red zone. Those are the situations you want guys to challenge wide receivers. You got to line up and press. You got to take away the slant and the fade. You have to be able to squeeze to the hip of crossers and undercut to make a play in the football. You need those guys in your secondary. There's no question that Greg Newsome would fit. We understand, and Adam knows this, unbelievable numbers from his pro day. Okay. I think, Adam, what he run, the high 4.3s?
Yeah, and that was the question. Like, how fast would he run? Because I don't know if that was just Northwestern stigma or whatever, but he answered those questions at his pro day.
He sure did. So I think that's the range, guys, where he will go. You know, in that back half of the first round, there's a lot of teams that are going to be looking at a corner there. But I do think this: you can never have enough defensive backs. You just can't. You know, in today's NFL, when you play, you know, so much sub package, you need defensive backs. You need defensive backs to cover on kicks. And we all know now with an extra game for the season, you're going to need depth in the secondary, and you're going to need depth to play against Aaron Rodgers. And that's ultimately what you get to is, how do we win our division? You know, we need defensive backs to beat the Packers. You have to have that in your secondary. So to answer your question, if at 20, you know, obviously we'll see. If a corner like J.C. Horn from South Carolina slides, because, again, we don't know.
Yeah.
You know, that J.C. Horn, I would put him right behind Patrick Surtain as one of the top corners in this class because he's got the press man skills. He can create on the ball production. He's a willing tackler. I don't think he's as strong as a tackler as Newsome is, but he's a willing tackler. Anytime in the secondary, you don't need to have Steve Atwater at the cornerback position, okay? But you need to have someone that is willing to tackle, and you can coach that up. You can create that technique during practice and during minicamp and during training camp and the preseason games as well. But J.C. Horn, if he slides, I mean, that would be a good fit for them as well.
As a former defensive back, who are some of the wide receivers that would just be a nightmare to cover? And I mean, there's obviously the obvious candidates and Waddle and Devonta Smith, who's just always open. But I mean, are there any of the maybe second tier wideouts that you really like?
I do, because I think that's a spot where the Bears could go wide receiver, and this is why. I think that if you look at their current construction of the roster right now, is the missing piece in my opinion, is just someone who can be deployed or utilized like Tyreek Hill. Okay, because it's the same offense we're looking at that Andy Reid runs. And someone who can stretch the field on overs and crossers. Someone can be that motion movement player for you. You can manufacture touches for them, which we've seen Matt Nagy try to do with multiple guys. Patterson, Miller, multiple guys he tried to work into that role. But manufactured touches are fly sweeps, jet sweeps, reverses, backfield alignment, screen game, in addition to what they can do after the catch. Someone who has high level catch and run traits. And a couple guys right there, Kadarius Toney from Florida, ultra sudden. His sudden ability jumps off the tape. You want to cover him on an option route, good luck. And then you have to catch him in the open field because he can slice up defenses. He's got that ball carrier vision. Elijah Moore from Ole Miss. I think he has the toughness to be a consistent volume slot target in the NFL. He's got good long speed down the field, but again, can also be schemed. There's a play we're going to show on the matchup show next week when he's running all go H seam when he's aligned in the backfield, running the seam route. There's different things he can do. Rondale Moore. Maybe Rondale Moore is not a 20. Maybe he's in the second round out of Purdue. I know he measured it at 5'7". You want someone with dynamic playmaking ability? That's Rondale Moore.
Tough too.
Because he's a kick returner too. So you do get that physicality in the open field, that ball carrier vision in the open field. Extremely sudden at the top of the route and after the catch. Those are three guys right there. Later in the draft, I'd also mention Amari Rodgers from Clemson. Amari Rodgers from Clemson can be schemed out of the backfield, does have enough vertical speed to stretch you from the slot. And even later, Dwayne Eskridge from Western Michigan. Okay, Dwayne Eskridge from Western Michigan. We're going to break him down next week in the matchup show. If you look at the construction of the Western Michigan offense, heavy RPO, right? The ability to catch the quick slant or what I call the glance route. It's just catch and go. And he's a little tight in terms of functional hip tightness, but in terms of straight line, acceleration, easy juice in the open field, Dwayne Eskridge is a wide receiver you can target in this draft as well.
I think Bears fans would be upset if we didn't ask about any offensive linemen.
Right.
Because I feel like at least a lot of them, a good portion of them have become obsessed with upgrading at tackle. And put your former safety hat on again if you can, like some of these guys are Tevin Jenkins, Christian Darrisaw, Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame. Like when you see these guys, not just in past sets, but when they reach the second level, like what are you seeing from them? What do you like, don't like about some of these guys? And I'm curious just about the value of offensive linemen in the late first round, the range of them. Like, where do you see good value for taking maybe one of the second-tier offensive tackles?
Well, I think the value right there is at number 20. You mentioned Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. I mean, that's a left tackle. I mean, he's got length. He's got movement traits. He can mirror and slide off the edge, but he can also drop his anchor and take on speed to power or bull rush. He's got enough fluid ability to climb to the second level. As a backside cutoff player on zone plays, we can climb, get up to the linebacker, cut him off to create that natural cutback lane for the running back. I really like him. I think he's an ascending talent. And that would be, if you're a Bears fan and they draft Darrisaw at 20, you should be excited because he's a guy that can play the left side of the offensive line. Jenkins, I think, is more of a right tackle. If you want someone who's going to bury you in the run game, he will finish. He's got finishing ability. I always say, do you have the ability to reset the line of scrimmage, whether offensively or defensively? He has that ability at the right tackle position, I think, in the NFL, where he can reset the line of scrimmage and move people off the football. I think those are two right there. We're talking about number 20. If the Bears do go offensive tackle, that would fit. There's no question.
All right, I always get ripped for touting my Wisconsin and Northwestern guys, but then I always say I don't tout the guys I don't like. I'm not out here saying you should draft Riley Lees in the 4th round.
Adam, when I write for ESPN, I will create categories. Just put Iowa guys in there. I'll just make them up. I will. So I understand. I mean, if there's an Iowa guy that's draftable, I will write about him. There's no question about it. And I have a piece coming out on Friday of I call it's the draft superlative. So it's the best at every position. Don't worry, there's an Iowa guy in there.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you want to spoil it, but I was going to ask you. I mean, who are the Iowa guys that you like or maybe don't like? I mean, Smith Marset, the wide receiver, is interesting to me because saw him play pretty much every year that he's been there in person, and guy makes plays, but I know he's not really being talked about as one of the top wide receivers. No,
he's not. I think if you were going to create a category for sleepers at the wide receiver position, whether it's late day 2 or even into day 3, Smith-Marsette's going to fit there. He's got tremendous upside in the special teams, first of all. Okay. He was coached by LeVar Woods at the University of Iowa, who's one of the best special teams coaches in the country. And Smith-Marsette, he's got easy juice, straight line acceleration, ball carrier vision in the open field. He's going to upgrade your kick return game immediately. But as a wide receiver too, guys, you can scheme for him. He can run the deep overs and the crossers. He's got separation ability. And I think in today's NFL, and I've said this before, and obviously we know there's outstanding route runners. Allen Robinson here in Chicago was one of the best in the league. Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams. Do you have to be such a detailed route runner in today's league? If you are a guy that's scheme. We talked earlier about motion and movement guys. Can you take someone like a Smith-Marsette and put him in motion to give him free access off the line of scrimmage? Could he put them in bunch and stack sets? Again, free access off the line of scrimmage to where they can win off the release, and then their traits take over. Now you can scheme on deep overs out of 3-by-1 sets. Now you can get them loose on shallow crossers. And all you're trying to do is get them that free access so you can get the football in their hands so where they can become difference makers in the pass game. And Smith-Marsette obviously doesn't have the same traits of an Elijah Moore from Ole Miss. But if you're talking about value in the draft and someone who also gives you immediate upside in your special teams, he's a player I would target.
I need to save myself now because I coach with Riley Lee's brother at Carmel, so I would gladly take him as a priority free agent. I'm just not touting him in the fourth round. So yeah. Anyway, Matt, we appreciate the insight. Johns, you got anything else?
No, we're good. I thought you were going to segue to the Catholic League football conversation.
I mean, we could do a whole podcast on that. I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to. We got,
No, I think it's great that you're coaching, and you'll understand that there's obviously personal benefits that you will experience. It creates energy for you daily when you're on the practice field. It's one of my favorite things about high school coaching. And I've said publicly before, I need it. I need to be in an environment with like-minded people. Okay. And for me, that's on the football field. That has helped me tremendously. Having a passion outside of my family and work with coaching the high school level has been tremendous in terms of the mental boost it gives me. But you'll start to see how much it matters in terms of building relationships with high school athletes and how much you can influence them, because that matters so much, especially in the time we're in right now. We're getting these players back in the football field has created immediate energy. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their mannerisms. And it's one of my favorite things about coaching at that level is to see kids develop both athletically, academically, and socially because of what football provides. There's nothing like it. So you're going to enjoy it. I'm glad you're doing it. And if you guys ever want to talk about putting a game together,
yes, now we're talking.
I don't know where the fall schedule is, but we might have to talk about that. I'm ready to go. It's and you're right. It's been incredibly rewarding already. No question about it. Love it. And like you said, I mean, more importantly for on the kids side of it, that they're getting stuff out of it when they do, and you see that kind of click, it is incredibly rewarding. So, Matt, thanks so much for the time. We always appreciate it, and I don't know, maybe we'll have to set something up for the fall.
Hey, and if you guys want to talk post draft, just let me know. There'll be a lot to talk about there too.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Oh, yeah. All right, Matt Bowen. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Bowen41.
Thank you, guys.
We're all trying to eat better, well, at least you should be, but healthy breakfast doesn't have to be boring. Magic Spoon has the amazing flavors you love, but without all the bad stuff. 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. Only 140 calories a serving. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. We've got exciting news. Magic Spoon has released a super delicious new flavor, birthday cake. Birthday Cake Magic Spoon will be available in a special 5-pack for a limited time only, so get it while you can. Or you can build your own custom box. Available flavors to build your very own custom bundle are cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, and cinnamon. And if you're listening from Canada, Magic Spoon now ships there as well. So here's what you need to do. Go to magicspoon.com/Adam to grab the new limited edition birthday cake or a custom bundle of cereal to try it today. And be sure to use our promo code Adam at checkout to save $5 off your order. This offer is now good anywhere in the U.S. or Canada, but only when you use our code at checkout. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/Adam. Use the promo code ADAM to save $5 off. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this episode. Well, there's a lot going on in the world, as you all know. It might be hard to sleep sometimes with everything going on. But, Johns, we have a solution. It's the Helix mattress.
Yes. You know who might need sleep, actually?
Me?
You and me. But these teams, right? The hours they're putting in, prepping for the NFL draft, they should go to Helix Sleep and take that quiz. They should find the perfect mattress for them. So that quiz that I'm just talking about, it takes just 2 minutes to complete and matches your body type and sleep preference to the perfect mattress for you. Why would you want to buy a mattress made for someone else? With Helix, you're getting a mattress that you know will be perfect for the way you sleep.
Yeah, you and I took the Helix quiz, and I got matched with the Dusk mattress. I've learned over the years that actually I prefer a firmer mattress, which I never would have thought a few years ago, but it really helps some of my lower back issues because I usually sleep on my back. So you take this quiz, you answer those types of questions, they spit out the right mattress for you, and it comes in this really, you get the box, it shows up, and it's like, there's no way there's a mattress in that box. You open it, and it's just like the coolest experience ever watching this thing come together.
Yeah.
So you just go to helixsleep.com/Adam, take their 2-minute sleep quiz. They'll match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. And Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/Adam. That's helixsleep.com/Adam for up to $200 off and 2 free pillows. Okay, a lot of good information there from Matt. And I don't know, you think we should schedule that game?
Yes.
I mean, first of all, let me be honest. I have no power to do such a thing at all. So I have zero say.
But you're like the middleman. You know Matt. You know J-Mac.
Well, Matt knows J-Mac.
They know each other too. Yes. I know Matt's an assistant and J-Mac's a head coach, but you can make this work.
I imagine the scheduling will be interesting.
And I think it's a good test for both sides. Like I see Immaculate Conception is the proven winner at the lower levels of the IHSA, and Carmel's, you guys are getting that program rejuvenated. So good test. It's a larger school, but good test both ways.
It would be a good test. So
then you can come face my Dons if you really want a challenge.
I don't know. You know what? I gotta just say something. I am the Catholic League. What it's become. I'm so confused by it. When I was at Ignatius, it was just we had the Chicago Catholic League. I know there was the suburban leagues too, but last week we played at Brother Rice. That was like a nostalgic for me because the amount of games I played at Brother Rice growing up. I mean, it was a ton, and in multiple sports. So we're playing Brother Rice. We're playing St. Pat's. I'm just like, why
you beat St. Pat's? Let's clarify.
We beat St. Pat's, but I'm just confused why there's there's divisions, there's colors, I'm just like, just give me the schedule. Who do we play this week? I don't. I'm like turning into a real football coach.
Yeah, that's the coach. You're on the next week and you play who's on the schedule. I like
it's amazing. You sit here and rip them for like not knowing who you play in 2 weeks, but like it's serious. Once you start getting into it, it's like I do not care what Brother Rice does this week or what they've done in the past. It's just like, what does the film say? Break it down. What are the matchups? How do you win this week? That's all it is. It's crazy. But I have to. So I haven't even taken the time, Johns. You probably know better than me. I know like the suburban Catholic leagues have merged with the Chicago Catholic leagues. Now they're all intertwined. There's divisions and colors, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and then there's tiers, since we're using draft lingo a lot this week.
Is it like relegation? Can you like move up and down?
Yes, you can, but some of it's limited based on size. But the success will move some schools up and down, if the size allows for it. Now, I could be wrong in saying all this, but that's my understanding, reading what I've read from Michael Bryan from the Sun-Times, or just talking to Michael Bryan or Mike Clark from the Sun-Times, or talking to the high school football coaches that I know. Well, guys like you, but I love high school football.
I still got to do my homework. I'm just learning our program right now and our opponents. And I'm like, what is all this?
Yes.
All right. That's not why you're here. All right. So let's move on. Let's move the conversation back to something we talked on Tuesday.
Round two.
First of all, I think we're talking about two different things. I don't think there's really a debate here. But anyway, you wanted to bring this up. So what's up?
No, you continued the conversation on Twitter. Now I just want to be a part of it.
A couple of our listeners brought it up. Yeah.
I just think where I'm at in terms of, let's go back to what we talked about a couple days ago. It's the idea of drafting a quarterback like Kellen Mond if your board says so at number 20. And I guess that makes sense. And it's mentioning conviction and consensus and all this stuff. You could throw in collaboration there, the 3 C's, the Chicago Bears, right?
Well, and just to quickly interject, I mean, that's kind of the crux of my point. Like, so if that team, whatever team it is, Bears, whoever, that's how they grade Kellen Mond, and this is just him hypothetically, everyone else might call it a reach. But my point is that for that team, they're not reaching on their own draft board, which is all that they're paying attention to. I just think that like sometimes the public, whether that's media, whether that's fans, they just don't understand that if you were to actually get into every draft room on draft night, the draft boards, some may generally look the same, but they're a lot different. First of all, there's not 500 prospects sitting on there.
No.
It gets narrowed down to 100.
Yeah. For some teams, it's like 150 and whatnot. I know the Bears can vary, but like other than like the top 5, top 10 guys, like predicting Roquan Smith to the Bears in 2018 was easy because he was top 10. Like the consensus was he a top 10 player, and that probably goes with every team. I think where I struggle with this is like the idea with conviction with the Bears. Like I feel like conviction should be questioned now. And like you look at Ryan Pace's draft history, he's got 8 move-ups, 3 trade backs. And it's almost just time to play the value of the board. And I don't want to say have less conviction because you don't want to have that, but they're always going to sell picks as conviction, right? Like, that's going to be part of the pitch that comes after these drafts. Everybody likes their drafts the day after they happen, or at least they say that publicly. But I just feel with the Bears, especially at number 20, which is his history says is the perfect range just to move around, to move up for a guy, to move back for a guy, and get draft capital. It just happens every year. With the Bears, they're at the point where internally certain conviction-like moves should be questioned because we've seen a miss on Trubisky. We've seen a miss. I don't want to say Leonard Floyd was a miss because I still think he's a good player, but he's still not on the team right now. You moved up for him. Anthony Miller, you moved up for him. Like your best conviction move-ups have been in the mid to late rounds. David Montgomery, it's a good move up. Eddie Jackson, it's a good move up. But the guys in the first couple rounds, that conviction should be questioned, and that should be part of what changes about your philosophy if we're really trying to change things in 2021. Does that make sense to you?
No, that makes sense. That's why I think what we're both saying makes sense. That's what my point was. I think we're talking about like two different things. I mean, essentially, what you're saying, you're not debating what I'm saying. You're just saying that it boils down to the same thing I was saying the other day. Actually, at the end of the day, you got to be right about the evaluation.
Yeah. I'm questioning the merits of the Bears' conviction at this point. Right?
But what you're really doing is questioning their evaluation.
Correct.
That's which again goes back to what my point has now been for years, really since the Mitch Trubisky trade. As much as people focus on those draft picks, it's not the draft picks that were the problem. It's the evaluation of Trubisky that was the problem. Because again, and I've said this so many times over the years, if Trubisky works out, no one cares about those picks. They just don't. Whether it was a necessary move up or not. And I think what we've learned most likely over the years that it was not necessary. but I still understand the logic. I understand the logic that if you're that sold on a player that you're worried someone else could be calling the 49ers and moving up for, what's a third-round pick or what's a fifth-round pick or whatever it is to make sure you get your guy. I think we can both be right here is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
because
I think,
what you're saying, though, what you're saying is that as we sit back and look at it, the Bears have not earned the benefit of the doubt that they're going to get the evaluation right.
Right. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, you have to learn from your mistakes, right? Like, so why does my board tell me to go get this guy that doesn't really pan out? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to fix these mistakes. You have to learn from these mistakes. You have to adjust your eternal evaluations, your grades that you use, because if this is what my board is telling me to do, and my history, at least in the first and second rounds, isn't that good, like, we need to question or retool this process in order to get it right.
I just think what it sounds like you're saying is that, and I agree, you always learn from your mistakes. To me, you got to focus more on what mistakes have you made in the evaluations.
Like, why are those guys in those tiers that you have to go target? Like, you know,
I wouldn't necessarily just stop trading up in general, which it sounds like you're saying, because then you're doubting you're doubting yourself.
Yeah.
Now you're going into this with doubt, and if that's really the case, then you shouldn't have the job that you have. I mean, it's become such a, and I don't know that it's become that big of a problem. Like, certainly the Pace era, they have not hit on all their early picks. They've also come up with some really good late round picks. And I haven't done this, but I'd love to stack up the Bears late round picks with all the other teams. I'd have to imagine they're in the top.
Well, I top
10.
No, you're 100% right in that.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to learning from your mistakes. Like, why are we better at drafting on day 3? How can we get better at drafting on day 1 and day 2? Like, what are we missing in our values? What's wrong with our board? Like, these are questions that have to be asked because you have an aging roster. Like, you've missed on some high-end picks. You missed on the quarterback. Like, these things need to be evaluated. Let me just leave you with this thought, especially in terms of, like, trade value and whatnot. This was from Ravens GM Eric DeCosta, I think, the other day, but I'm reading from The Athletic. DeCosta was asked about a recent New York Post story that had the Ravens as the top drafting team in the NFL over the past 5 years. His explanation? We've probably had the most picks over that span, he said. I look at the draft, and in many ways, I'd have to say it's a luck-driven process. If you have more picks, you're going to hit on more good players. That goes back to a philosophy that I think Ozzie Newsome, started back in 1996. We started really going after comp picks. We tried to trade back as much as we could in any given round.
There's no question. I mean, there's now you still have to be good at your evaluations, but this is where, and this kind of gets into, I saw Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl tweeting about this a little bit, like the word crapshoot, and how that's almost insulting. And I get where he was coming from. I think the problem is when we start talking about it being luck or a crapshoot or things like that, it's not so much that like the evaluations don't matter and you just, any year you draft 10 guys, a certain amount's going to work out, a certain amount's not. Like, you still have to be good at your evaluations, but the problem and the frustrating thing with the draft is, like, I don't look at Anthony Miller like a bad evaluation. Like, he's talented. I, to this day, understand why the Bears drafted him. But it's that other part that you can't always know with young kids coming out of college. That's what we forget. They're kids. A lot of these guys that look at here in the Beast, they're not even 21 years old yet. A lot of them.
Can't buy a beer. At least legally.
And I look back at me when I was 20, 21. Like, you grow up, you mature, you change.
You were shotgunning beers and going to toga party.
Not toga parties. We didn't do toga parties. I didn't really shotgun either. The beer bongs were a thing at Wisconsin. I'm not gonna lie. You ever seen those 2-story ones? Getting ready for, if you ever go to Madison for a football game.
I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, they got you got 20 people on the upstairs porch that definitely should not be holding 20 people. And then you got 20 people below them. And this is actually a serious thing that probably should not be happening. I'm sure the fire marshal's not too happy about it. But then you got the bong that's going down from the second story to like the random person just walking by, headed to the game that wants a a free beer, and they do it.
Free too. But isn't that like you mentioned?
It's fun.
Like
it's irresponsible.
Yeah, but you're a college kid, and these guys are college kids.
You grow out of it.
And now they're about
Some
to
people
be,
don't.
Some don't. But that's part of this, right? Is you're drafting kids, and you just don't know. But that's the point of the Ravens.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to miss on 50 of your picks, but if you take 12 guys, 6 you got right. Ryan Pace has had drafts that have had 5 guys.
Yeah.
And if you look at that draft, look at the draft with 5 guys. You know what I'm talking about. They got 2 of them right.
I'm telling you,
right.
I'm hungry right now. 5 guys sounds pretty good.
Burgers.
All right, we got to get out of here. Follow us on Twitter, at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. Plenty of coverage up on The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge and Jahns. My Draft Crush team on NBCSportsChicago.com. Tons of coverage from us the next couple weeks, and also on this podcast. We'll be back Tuesday. We'll have multiple episodes next week. We'll have Tuesday. We should get Fishbane back on. I don't know.
Tuesday.
Yeah, we got to get him on Tuesday. And then, then the drafts here. We'll have multiple episodes throughout the weekend. Of course, as we always do in the NFL draft. So, follow us on Twitter. Read us. We appreciate it. Rate and review the podcast. Tell your friends. Tell them that over the next couple weeks, this is where you're going to want to be for NFL draft coverage when it comes to the Chicago Bears. We will be here for you. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Y'all stay corona free, all right? And God bless.